get funky.
All right, welcome to the Bizz, where we're all up in it. I'm your boy Daniels D Money up here in Simi Valley.
And I'm A Ron down in SD.
All
And I
right,
am
all right.
Charis. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it. Do your
Charis
thing.
on Simi Valley. I'm so excited. I didn't even give a cue.
It's all right. So here we are on the Bizz tonight. So there's been a lot going on this past week. You know, just with everything that's going on with the COVID and the protests and the riots. So tonight we're going to take a little detour because there is so much going on, and it's all over social media. One concern that, you know, a lot of people aren't talking about is our kids, like the stuff our kids are seeing, and how do we regulate what they see? So I guess my initial question is, as parents, how do we help our kids navigate this digital world? Charis, I'm gonna let you hit that first.
Great question. And I just a disclaimer here. I have zero certification in raising kids in the digital era, other than the fact that I am a parent raising 2 kids in the digital era. So
We're there with you. We're both there with you.
That's the certification.
there it is.
That's it right there.
And for me, it was recognizing some things with my children and other people's children. At what age do we give them a cell phone? What age do we give them an iPad? What age do we let them watch YouTube or Safari? Search anything on Safari or Chrome, right? So for me, it happened when I had a play date at my house with my oldest daughter. Had a play date and a friend in about the 3rd grade, and I noticed that a 3rd grader had a cell phone. And my kids, we had cell phones. They did not have their own. We had iPads, but they did not have their own. It was ours. But we had a rule that the iPads and the phones stayed in the kitchen. We had a digital-free living room. I'm not going to tell you that has stayed digital-free.
Right.
Nothing in the bedrooms, and so on. And this child took her phone in the bedroom and they shut the door. And I was like, So I gave it a minute and I thought about it. And I'm like, this is not my kid. But when I went down the hall and I opened the door, I said, what are we doing with a cell phone in the bedroom? What are we doing? Oh, we're doing homework. Okay. And I could tell by my daughter's reaction, they weren't doing homework. So I said, you know what, if we want to play on the cell phone, we're going to do it in the kitchen. That's that's the rule in Mrs. Moreno's house. If you guys want to do homework with the phone, you can do that in there. And the reaction was very surprising by the child. And then, of course, a few days later, the reaction by the parent was even more surprising. So I realized.
And this is when your daughter was in 3rd grade?
Yeah. So
when your oldest daughter was in 3rd grade?
And she's going into 10th grade this year. So it's been a little bit. And then she had a little sister behind her. So whatever big sister does, we got to make sure that the rules are as consistent as possible. And then, it was like, hey, why did you, the mom approached me like, hey, I heard you took my daughter's cell phone. I was like, well, that actually isn't how it happened. I said that, if you want, you're here for a play date. If you want your phone, it's in the kitchen. I have a phone. At the time I had a landline. You have access. And I said, did you look to see what your child was doing at that time? Well, no. I said, well, why don't you do that and call me back and we can have this discussion or we can meet up. Oh, okay. And then I got the call that night, an apology. Oh, she was texting with a few boys. I said, exactly. And that's why we don't have cell phones in the bedroom. So
Right.
For me, it was just about that conversation. And I realized at that moment, I have different rules than other parents when it comes to these devices. When you have children that are in divorced families, they get the phones earlier because dad or mom want to be able to get a hold of the child. Parents travel. I travel a lot. So, I made the decision when my daughter went into 9th grade to give her a phone. But my oldest was, going into her 9th grade year. So she had one during her 8th and 7th grade year, but for school only. And then it came to me at the end of the night. But starting in 9th grade, she could carry it with her and kind of have it at all times. But at night, it does get plugged in the kitchen. So she doesn't have it always in her bedroom.
Right. So you said something really interesting a second ago about, sometimes kids have divorced parents or something like that. And I would imagine that, that family dynamic, whether you live in a house with two parents or if you live in a single parent home, that could greatly affect how that kid's digital imprint is being governed, right?
Sure.
Their digital access,
Yes.
right? Because I know my wife and I, my daughter, she's 11. She just got her cell phone just last year. And, she's already been on the internet to the point where you're doing stuff you shouldn't be doing. So her digital privileges have already been limited, right? Yeah. Because it is difficult to govern everything they do. So you have to put those limitations on. But it's scary, the things that they can, that they have access to, because they're so bright, they're so savvy with these computers these days. I mean, my daughter, if I'm on my computer and I don't know how to do something, I'm not gonna lie, I call my daughter like, hey, can you come in? Mm-hmm. Just because they know more about the computer than I do, because they grew up in it.
Yeah. Well, they were born into it. We weren't.
Yes.
Right? They were
exactly.
born into it.
Yeah.
They were born, there was a really interesting study by Harvard, 4 groups of people, 2 kids below the age of 5, both received an iPad, never touched an iPad, 2 people in their 40, over 40, male, female, both demographics, who could figure it out first. And the under 5-year-old girl figured it out first, then the boy, and then the male, older gentleman, and then the female. And they're not afraid. It's such an interesting study if you watch it, because, the adult is so afraid to click a button or press save, or what does that circle thing do, or what are the buttons on the side do? And the kids just pull it out and they look at it and they're like, done. And they figure it out. And the time that they do it, because they were born with it. And gosh, I can remember my first cell phone. It was about this size. And it was about this, big.
Right. It was like a brick, right? I remember that.
It was more of a brick than my water bottle. And driving around with my dad, he had a phone in his car, and, he would carry it on his shoulder, but you couldn't use it because it was like $72 a second or something. Very different. Now it's unlimited.
How do you, I guess, teach your child, or how do you start the process of getting your child to be responsible?
Such a great question. For me,
using the internet.
Yeah. So for me, it's, what about the other responsibilities that they have? Do they keep their room clean? Do they make their bed every morning? Because those, what are their current responsibilities today? And how well do they do with those things? If they have to be constantly told to clean up their room, constantly told to go to bed after bedtime, do the chores, and they don't do their chores, or when they do their chores, they don't do them to the expectation that you've taught them to, mop or whatever whatever age your kids are, there's appropriate chores, right? I believe that if you cannot trust a child to make their bed every morning, get up, brush their teeth, brush their hair, wash their face, you should question whether or not they are prepared to handle the responsibility of a cell phone or a tablet, and access to things that you will never in your life as a parent be able to allow them to unsee or unhear. And the desensitization that is going on, I think I said that word wrong, but you know what I'm saying, we're desensitizing our kids to where they're looking at love in a different way. They're learning sex in a different way. They're learning what curse words are and how they're being used, looking at someone and saying you're a POS versus someone, those have different meanings, and they shouldn't be using that language, but they're being exposed so young that then you as a parent start looking at their messages with their kids, and kids as little as 1st, 2nd grade are using these words. They don't even know what they're saying. So I think it starts with the responsibility of other things that lead into the ability to give them a phone. I have my older daughter just turned 16. The only reason why she got a car was because of the responsibilities she has shown in her actions in school, in her plays, in her friendships, and in her ability to show up on time. When you get to your friend's house after the movies with the mom, I want you to call me when you get there. If she can't do that, she's not getting a car, because she can't call me when she gets there or whatever. Even though I have all the apps that I could to track her and speed and how fast she's braking.
She has to be able to complete the task.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Right. And she has to build the trust as you go, because obviously new responsibility, like such as a car, comes with a whole new, I guess I already said the word responsibility, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you can't do this, how are you going to handle the responsibility of a car? And if you can't, handle the car, how are you going to handle the next thing?
After responsibility comes accountability. So if they don't,
Yes.
and they make those mistakes, you have to hold them accountable to the consequences of that action. So when a child sends another child a pornographic image, do you take the phone away, or do you ground them from going to their friend's house? The punishment should match, I don't want to say crime, but the crime, right? Like the punishment
right.
should match the action. So, when we've had situations where I have had a situation in the last year where some images were sent, to my daughter by another young man. And when I went to the school about it, it was, well, we suspended him, or we're going to, or like, wait a minute. This wasn't a school thing. This was an after hours thing. And the only reason why I'm coming to you is because of XYZ. And so it has to fit take the phone away and teach him. It's a life lesson moment. Teach them why. Because why, if you know the why, then everything else will explain itself.
And do you think if the teaching of the why is mistaught, like if you don't have the appropriate lesson taught, does the kid miss the lesson? Or maybe they're smart enough to get it, but they're smart enough to, or they think they're smart enough to outsmart you on the next level? Because these kids are smart.
I don't know, because I mean, who am I to say what the right, why is or lesson? I just know for my family what it is. I want to preserve my daughters as much as I can for what they see. I can't shield them. I can't bury my head in the sand. I did a situation at the school a couple of years ago, and a mom, was very upset with me. What makes you qualified to stand up in front of these kids and talk to them, or the parents, and talk to the parents? I said, because I'm a parent. And we're in this together. And there's 10 parents smarter than me that understand how to set up the settings. But I can tell you that if we don't get ahead of this and we don't know the apps that these kids are using, there's apps that look like calculators that are vaults into images that we don't know as parents. There's an app they can hit, put in a code, and it'll delete things off their phone. These are things that are out there that, our kids know about them before we do. Snapchat, anything on Snapchat is bad. If a child has Snapchat, it is so bad to me. An adult that has, if my husband had Snapchat, I would have a problem with it. Like, seriously.
Right, because the images disappear.
It disappears. It promotes getting away with it.
Right?
Like
if an employee of mine had Snapchat for business, I'd be like, no. So you've got to really think about it, right? Technology is great. Kids need to know about it. They need to be able to use it. They're not going to get a job if they can't. But, a car is good until it's the wrong person gets behind the wheel. Alcohol is good. Not good, but alcohol can be fine if you drink it.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, it is good. Cheers.
It can be very good. It can be very good.
In the hands of the wrong person, so technology is great, but guess what? A pen used to be technology, but the radio was technology, television was technology. So when you look back and I go back to my grandparents, like, oh, the radio came, that's when all hell broke loose, and then the TV came, and now the TV's bad. I mean, talk to your grandparents and your great grandparents. I mean, I can't, mine are passed on, but those new media avenues for connection and getting the message out, the wrong person delivering the message can create a movement that can pretty much destroy an entire generation of people. And in some cases, we're unfortunately dealing with that now. Yes,
do you think there's a way to sort of mix the old school with the new school? Like a job interview. I don't want to do it online. You're going to come down to the office. You're going to shake my hand face to face. Is there a way to mix physical interaction with the fake interaction and teach them to understand the difference?
I think so. When 5 years, I think it was 5 years ago, there were, the baby boomers in the market were competing with, or not competing, working with the millennials coming in. And you've got millennials coming in shorts and flip-flops and their hair not done and at 9 o'clock. And the baby boomer came in a suit and a tie or a business suit or a pant. I don't wear skirts as a woman, but it's just my thing. But like I would come in a suit. I remember when I got hired by a tech company, Trulia, in 2007, and I showed up in a suit. And I met with two men that were younger than me by probably 10 years. And one had holy jeans and a white t-shirt, and the other one had a nice sweater with a collar popped out and jeans. But like I walked in and the entire office turned their heads like, whoa, who's that in the suit? And it was hard for me. So I think, yes, you can. My dream is to bring a retirement community together with children in a learning environment so the kids can teach the older adults how to use these devices and technology in order to communicate with their grandkids, communicate with, their, or get a job in some cases, right? And then they teach them the history about what it's like to handwrite a letter, handwrite a thank you card, or how to sit in an interview professionally. Absolutely. If we did more of that and bridged those two generations, our next generation would be able to take the information of, boots on, I don't know what the right word is, but like, the generational learning and apply it. Yeah. And apply it forward. I'm all of my life lessons came from my grandfather, both of my grandparents. And, when I think about things, I think about what would my grandpa do in this moment right now. And
if we could teach our kids, being a teacher, it's evident to me sometimes. I'll ask a kid a question and, their immediate response is, I don't know, right? If we could teach them to learn to reflect on lessons that they get from their parents, and some of them do. I'm not saying all of them don't, but that would be great if we could build a generation of kids who can reflect and draw from the lessons we teach them. Right. Because and I went through it, when I was a teenager, I didn't want to hear anything my parents had to say. Right. And I'm my parent. So.
But we all grew up in the MTV age, right? MTV. Yeah.
I was a teenager during MTV.
Oh, okay. Well, I was a child.
Yeah, I was a teenager in the 80s.
Okay. That's fine. But the point is that imagine if we would have showed I was trying to make a connection of, sometimes we as parents think we have to always be the teacher, and we don't. If we could sit down with our kids and say, hey, teach me why you like Roblox so much, right? Like what that game is so mind-numbing to me. Like, why do you want to sit on this game for hours upon hours and building? Ask them, teach me, and then as they're teaching you, start asking questions about things you want to know. Hey, can you, what's this over here? Oh, that's a chat box. Oh, who do you chat with? My friends. Okay, well, define friend for me. Is it someone that you actually know, like you physically can touch them? Oh, no, there's somebody, named, Paintball or whatever, because they come up with the craziest names, right?
Right.
And so Paintball lives in Lord knows where, and Lord knows how old he or she is, right? Start to ask them questions. Have them teach you, because they will accidentally tell on themselves. You know this. We have young kids. Right? So really begin to engage them. Same thing with Minecraft. Or, hey, I heard about this app called Instagram. Like, why Instagram? Why not Facebook? They'll tell you. My daughter flat out looked at me and said, because all parents are on Facebook, and we don't want to be where our parents are. Right?
And they're savvy to that. They're definitely savvy to that.
All right. Start asking questions. Do the messages disappear? If you screenshot it, does the other person see it? Yes. Oh, really? How do you communicate more? Do you text more? No. We do everything through Instagram messaging. Oh, okay. Now you need to get that password, right?
Right. So, I guess ultimately we just need to, even though we're the parents, we need to be learners of this technology as well. We need to be learners with them. And if we can recruit them, if we can recruit them with our learning, right, then hopefully we can better monitor what they're doing.
And they'll be so
Keep them safe.
excited to tell you. I mean,
Right.
my youngest daughter is 11 or 12, 11. I don't know how old she is. I just had her. But she is so into coding. She wants to code all the time. Teach me. Let me see it. And then I look at it. I'm never going to learn it. My brain is not wired that way. But she doesn't know that. Show interest. Right? Just, you know, when they want to do their hair blue. I mean, there are worse things in the world you can fight about with your kid than dyeing their hair blue. Dye their hair blue. If the pastor's kid can go pink, my kid can go blue. Right? Like, so pick your battle.
My daughter and I are going to argue about that for sure.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to argue
but
about
we're
going to argue about
blue hair or a tattoo, right? Like,
yeah, I think I'd go with the blue hair.
Right? So I think we as parents need to choose our battles. I think we need to look at the statistics. You know, one of the most fascinating things for me is 70% of kids see inappropriate stuff while they're doing homework.
Yes.
Right? So we're in Zoom school.
If we're not over their shoulder watching them, they're doing other stuff, right?
Yeah. Hey, I have to do a report on melons. Do that in Google and see what you get. It's not going to be watermelon or cantaloupe. It's going to be something else. That's a third grade project. And my third grade, you know, so we've got to really think about that. And then just the life lessons of what you put online stays. Probably one of the worst parenting tips that I will give any parent today with a teenager, whether it's a boy or a girl. When you see inappropriate images, print them off their phones. Just go through it, print them all. Maybe they're images of themselves, hopefully not. Print them. And then get them in the mindset that they're going on a job interview or they're going to sit down with a college. What college do you want to go to? They all, you know, whatever. And print out their resume, and their resume is what they have online, because the first thing a college admission counselor is going to do is they're going to search your name on social media. How do you behave online? They don't care how old you are. What does your digital footprint look like? Because guess what? When you join their college, you join their brand, and their brand becomes the image that you have portrayed to the public. So if your kid has a photo of themselves that is indecent, you print it. Put that on the first page of that college resume, because if you can find it as their parent, their teacher, their college, their future job opportunity is going to find it. And sometimes you've got to hit your kids that fast and that hard in their face and say, this is what your digital footprint looks like. And even us as parents, we post our kids all the time without their permission. So when they get older, they already have a digital footprint. So I ask my kids, hey, can I post this? Yeah, I'd rather you not. They have a say, and they should have a say.
I agree. All right, well, that's a lot to digest. And again, I guess we have to be learners with our kids, especially with everything that's going on, because the images out there are not going to stop coming. So we need to be able to teach our kids, but learn with them as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Learn their language.
You know, so definitely, we'll definitely get back to that for sure. That's it. All we have for this segment tonight. But I'm so glad that you joined us tonight, and you're definitely coming back. Don't think you're getting out of this. You are, you're definitely coming back.
I appreciate it a lot.
Oh yeah, we love. For all of you out there, you want to hit those comments down there. Definitely give us a thumbs up. And please subscribe, because if you subscribe, then you can allow us to keep bringing this content to you. All right. D-Money, Daniel signing out in Sema Valley.
Hey, Ron, down in the SD. See you next time.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And we're out.
Bizz.